Hello everybody, this is Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and I decided to try to have this Facebook Live outside, and I thought I had the lighting all figured out, but I'm under my umbrella because the sun is shining, and that's making it kind of dark, so I hope you can see me okay. We have a really fun class planned for this time. Excuse me. And so if you're watching now, you're actually not watching live, and we'll have some live people joining in just a little bit. So while we're waiting for people to join, I'd like to tell you a little bit about who I am and what we're going to be doing today. So actually, first of all, let me just tell you what this video is all about so you can decide how awesome it's going to be and that you want to stick around and watch. I'm going to be sharing a couple of, actually 3 stories from my own personal life that have to do with psychic protection, and I've got my tablet right here, so I'm going to be looking at my notes. The first, let's see, so I've got 3 stories. The first one is The Witch's Curse. The second one is Mother Mary's Protection. And the third one is The Haunted Farmhouse. And these are all stories, these are all things that happened to me personally. I decided to not share any recent stories. Oh my God, I have some pretty good stories about things that have happened recently in the last year and the last 2 years, but I'm going to refrain from telling those stories, and I'm going to share some stories that were from between 15 to 25 years ago. Okay, so we have some people who have just joined, so if you could please say hi and tell us what city and state you are joining from, and one word that describes how you're doing right now. So, sorry about the frog in my throat. I see Anne and Nicole and Zahira and Erica. Welcome. We have a really cool class that we're going to be doing today. StoryTime. Going to be sharing some of my personal stories. And I actually haven't done this on a Facebook Live before. Welcome, Sandy. So everybody who's joining, if you can say what city and state you're joining from, and one word that describes how you are doing right now. All right, so while we're waiting for a few more people to join, I said I was going to introduce myself. My name is Zahira, and I am the founder and owner of Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And it's a business that I run both in person, out at my new place. That's why I wanted to do this outside, so you could see this is the land that I live on. So I work from home, working with clients. Oh, see, there's the sunset. I'm not sure how our lighting is going to be today. We're just going to bear with me. I was going to have class inside, and then thought it was so beautiful. There we go. No more sunshine. So I mentioned I teach classes and work with clients at my place here, and then I also work with people all over the world, over the phone and long distance sessions and online classes. So and I have been doing spiritual healing work for over 25 years, and then over time it has evolved to be mainly focused on the area of psychic protection, and that is because I, over the course of my life, have had numerous experiences, and then I've also helped my clients through a lot of experiences as well. So I was actually just working with a client, a brand new client this afternoon, and I told her, you know, about how I'm so passionate about doing this work because I've had some really intense experiences myself, so I can really relate to how horrible it is, and you know, how much people really need help when they're really going through a serious issue. So I'm really very, very committed to doing this work, and that's one of the reasons why I come on here on our Facebook group twice a month and offer these free classes just because I want to be contributing to the community and sharing as much as possible. So welcome everybody. I see we've got Erica from Madison, Kansas, and she's excited. See if I can block the sun. Anne from Trail, British Columbia, Canada. Outside of physical pain, I'm good. Okay, I'm glad you're doing good. Jennifer is from Adelaide, Australia. Awesome. Cool. Sandy is joining from Gladstone, Missouri. Zahira from Renton, Washington. Awesome. Do we have anybody else who needs to introduce themselves and tell us how you're doing? Oops, there we go. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I'm going to be sharing 3 different stories today, and these are just little, I'm not sure how deeply I'll go into the stories. We'll just see how we do on time, but these are, I think they're fascinating stories, maybe because I experienced them, I don't know. And I'd also like to give the opportunity for you all to share your stories. Since this is not a format where we're all on video and we can't all talk, you'll have to just type in like a 1 or 2 sentence synopsis, and I'll give the opportunity for that partway through. So I know that some of you have had some really interesting stories. So these stories are focused on, are all about psychic protection. And so as we share our stories, I want you to think about any time when you may have had some kind of experience with like a ghost or an entity, spiritual being of some kind bothering you, or if a person was sending you negative energy, psychic attack, that sort of thing, or any kind of negative experience of a spiritual nature, dealing with energy, with negative energy or negative entities. So those are the stories that we are going to be focusing on, okay? So we're going to be focusing more on the stories and how, and the interesting details. I will share a little bit about some things that I learned from each of these stories, but mainly it's just kind of like sitting around the campfire sharing some cool stories. Man, I wish I had a campfire tonight. Before I get into my first story, just a reminder to everybody who's joining that to please tell us where you're joining from, city and state, and one word that describes how you are feeling. And then also, before I go into my first story, some of you who've been following me know that I moved recently, and it was a really intense move. I won't go into all of that story, just it was very intense. But here I am out on the Kansas prairie now, and I'll show you. This is my backyard. That's the propane tank, so that's that big metal thing, because we use that for the water heater, but that's my backyard. I can't really get too much of a view of it this way because of where I'm sitting, but it's gorgeous out here. And like, I sat out here and ate dinner about 10 minutes ago, and there were literally cows like right there past the propane tank. They were just munching on their grass, and it's pretty cool. And that's corn right there. Let's see. Oh, we've got a few people joining. Nicole, hello from Seattle, feeling dry on a rainy day. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're not all wet. Jennifer, excited to be here today. Good. Phyllis, hello all. I'm listening while I cook dinner. What you cooking? So anyway, before I get into my first story, I wanted to say that one of the reasons why I wanted to move, there were several reasons why I've been wanting to move out to the country. One of the reasons is because of the intensity of the work that I do. You know, when I work with a client one-on-one and they have had, you know, one or more negative malevolent entities attached to them for like 20 years, and I'm working to help them release that, that's pretty intense work. And so it's really important that I'm doing my work out of the highest vibration space that I could possibly be doing it from. And then also, for my own self-care, excuse me, for my own self-care, when I'm doing sessions that are so intense like that, it's really important that I be able to nurture my own energy by by having like literally pristine nature right outside my back door, where I can go put my feet in the ground and ground my energy immediately right after doing sessions like that. So it helps me to be able to do a better job for all of you. So I just wanted to share this awesome energy with you all. It's beautiful out here. Phyllis is making steak. Cool. And leftover salad. Awesome. Okay, y'all ready for the first story? Because I've been dragging this out. Okay, let me pull my notes up. All right. And those of you who don't have it yet, I want to give you my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And you can go on there and see all of my services and the online classes that I teach as well as in-person classes here at the sanctuary. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm going to share stories from a while back, and I do have more recent stories. And actually, in my book that I'm in the middle of writing, Darkness Disguised as Light, I include quite a few stories in that. And there's one story that the book is mainly focused on, which is a recent story from a year and a half ago. But these stories are between 15 to 25 years ago, or actually maybe more, because the first story is when I was a teenager. Let's see, gotta look at my notes here. Okay, so just to give it a little bit of context, I got to tell you the title of this story. So this is Mother Mary's Protection. And just a little aside, this story does mention, it does tie in religion. And I want to just say that my philosophy now is that I'm very open to all different paths. So if you don't happen to follow this particular religion that I was when I was a kid, don't let that turn you off, okay? Because I believe that any high vibration spiritual being that you might be working with can offer you similar, if not just as powerful, protection. So this story is called Mother Mary's Protection. So when I was a teenager, I was an unusually spiritual kid. And I was also very religious, which is kind of two different things, but it was all kind of tied in together. I was raised Catholic, and I was also having a lot of spiritual experiences already, even as a teenager. I had already had numerous spiritual visions that were positive in nature, and then I had also had a couple that were very scary, that were demonic in nature. Most of my experiences were very positive, though, but there were a few that were really scary. And so even as a teenager, I was developing a certain level of bravery for this kind of stuff. So there was one night that I got home late from work. I don't know if you guys remember TCBY, the frozen yogurt place. I used to work there. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was 16 years old. I got home from my job at the frozen yogurt store. It was like 11 or 12. I'm not sure what time it was. It was late. The rest of my family was asleep. My parents were asleep. And my bedroom was upstairs. So it was away from everybody else who was at home. So I went upstairs and I was getting ready for bed. I was in the bathroom, probably brushing my teeth or something. And all of a sudden I felt a really negative entity in my presence, and I saw it. I don't know, in this instance, I don't know if it was demonic. It wasn't obvious, it didn't have obviously demonic features, but it was very negative and very scary looking, and I was kind of freaked out. Now, as I mentioned, I was a very spiritual and religious kid, and so my connection that I had was with my Catholic faith at the time, and I had a very strong connection with Mother Mary. And remember what I said to just like fill in the blanks with whatever your particular path is, because you don't have to follow this path. There's a bug that's been biting my arm this whole time. Okay, that's what happens when you're outside. Okay, so when I felt and saw this negative entity, I immediately called on Mary, Mother Mary, for help, and I literally felt her touch my arm, and I remember looking down at my arm. It was my right arm. I looked down at my arm, like the second after it happened, because I was very lucid when this was happening. I looked down at my arm, and I saw that all the hair on my arm, on my forearm, was standing up, but just in the area where I had felt the touch. Not by my wrist, so the hair was not standing up by my wrist or up by my elbow, just right in the middle of my forearm where I had felt this hand, where I felt her hand touch me, because she was standing between me and this evil entity, whatever it was. So by then I had already had a couple of scary experiences, so I was a little bit braver than I had been before. So I knew that I had to go to bed. It was late at night, so I went to bed. And my parents, by the way, if I had woken them up and told them about this, they would not have understood. I was very different from my parents. We'll just put it that way. So I had to deal with that on my own. So I went to bed. I put my rosary around my neck for protection. So that's an example of a protective amulet, by the way. So if you belong to a different faith and you have some kind of religious symbol that you can wear around your neck, or some kind of holy object that you can wear around your neck, that will be very protective for you. Okay? So for me, there was a lot of power in that object. So I put it around my neck. I said a bunch of prayers and asked Mother Mary to protect me, and then I laid down, I put my head on the pillow, and when I closed my eyes, I saw this image. I saw Mother Mary's face, like it was like her face hovered over. So my eyes were closed, so this was not an eye-opened vision. But when I closed my eyes, I saw her face hover close to mine, and it was like somebody put me to sleep. Like I immediately fell asleep. And here's the weird thing. Several times during the night, I felt like I almost woke up. And it felt like there was all this activity going on in the room. Like I would almost wake up, but there was something that was keeping me from waking up. And it felt like there was full-on spiritual warfare going on in my bedroom. And for whatever it's worth, I believed at the time, and I still believe this, that Mother Mary had caused me to fall asleep and stay asleep while she took care of this issue. So she was she was like one tough mama, I'm telling you. So she basically kicked some spiritual ass while I was asleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I immediately I opened my eyes and I immediately remembered how I'm looking at Nicole's message. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Just lost my train of thought. Okay, so when I woke up, I immediately remembered how I had almost woken up several times during the night, and it felt like there was this really like there had been very intense energy going on in the room. And but as I opened my eyes and I sort of looked around and observed the room as a 16-year-old in my bedroom, I'm looking around and I sit up on the side of my bed and I realize the room is completely clear and it feels totally peaceful in that room. I mean, just so clear of any negative energy. I can't even describe it. It was just so peaceful and beautiful in the room. And so even though now, as how many years later is it? I'm 45 now. Even though my faith has, my own personal path, my own personal faith has expanded to where I'm very open to lots of different truths and lots of different paths, lots of different faiths. I tell you what, I still call on Mother Mary when there are times when there is like major spiritual warfare going on. She's one of my team. Now, again, I'm going to emphasize, whoever you really connect with, call on them. But I'm telling you, people, she is a badass. I was really surprised. I mean, she basically kicked ass. Oh, Nicole, yes. This class goes between 45 minutes to an hour every time, and sometimes a little bit more. We say 45 minutes in case... Oh, there's the air conditioner. I hope that's not too loud, you guys. Cool. Okay, so that's the first story. Yeah. Let's go into the second story. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I just really wanted to be outside. The second story is The Witch's Curse. And this is a story that involves personal psychic attack. So the first story that I shared was about I would say that was a pretty minor or maybe moderate, I don't know, spiritual attack from a spiritual being. I say it's minor because it didn't last very long. Nothing ever came of it. But I have other situations that I'll tell you about in the future that were very intense and extreme spiritual warfare kinds of attacks. This one, The Witch's Curse, is it's about a personal psychic attack where someone decided that they were mad at me. Good, I'm glad you can hear me, Erica. Someone decided that they were mad at me and they intentionally sent a psychic attack. So here's what happened. There was a gal, let's see, I'm trying to think. So it was maybe 15-ish years ago. She was helping me with my website. It was not with my healing business, but it was with some other work that I was doing. And she was helping me with my website. And she, there's people out there in the world that instead of communicating with you if something isn't working for them, they don't tell you, and then they develop resentment over time, and then they take actions that are really toxic and abusive. And that's what happened in this situation. So rather than communicating with me, I had no idea that there was anything wrong. We had an arrangement. I thought everything was fine. She didn't tell me anything different. And then one day, she sent me a message. She sent me an email, and she said that she was very upset with me because of XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And it was like not even stuff that was true. If she would have just talked with me, we could have cleared it up. And she said that she had removed my website, and the only way that I could get my website back was if I paid her thousands of dollars. Which, by the way, legally, that's called extortion. So she did something illegal, but here's the psychic protection part of the story. She happened to be a practicing witch. Now, some of you who have heard me talk before, some of you who know me pretty well, know that I don't have any problem with witchcraft, or I don't personally practice it, but I don't have any problem with it. So I'm not anti-witchcraft. So anybody watching this who's pagan, Wiccan, or anything like that, I have lots of friends who are. What I've observed is that there are people in every single religion that exists that either use it for good or they use it for bad. And so this person was using her religion of choice for bad. So she was using it to cause harm, and which I don't agree with. So whatever religion you might belong to is fine, as long as you're not using it to harm people, okay? As long as it's not celebrating harming people or doing evil, harmful acts. So she was a practicing witch, no big deal. I didn't think anything of it because I don't judge that. But the problem was that she decided to put some kind of curse on me, and here's what happened. And Phyllis says, hateful people are in all religions. Yes, so that's my philosophy. So I wanted to be clear, I'm not bashing any particular religion. Totally love all faiths, I'm totally open. Here's what happened. So the day that I got the email where she stole my website, took it offline, because she was an IT person, she knew how to do that, and then demanded that I pay her thousands of dollars. I was very stressed out that day because I depended on my website for my business, and I went to bed that night not thinking, I wasn't even imagining that she was going to do something on a spiritual level against me as well. But I went to sleep, and then all of a sudden I woke up at midnight on the dot. I was sleeping deeply, and all of a sudden I'm wide awake, and I look at the clock, and then I look at the foot of my bed, and she's standing there at the foot of my bed. And I think, oh crap. So right away I realize she's doing some kind of a ritual against me, okay? Because I saw her, but then what I realized is that she wasn't actually there physically, she was just there energetically. And then I remember thinking, oh God, hopefully everything's okay, right? And in the past, I used to have this pattern where I would see evidence that there was something nasty going on spiritually, psychic attack wise, but I would be like, oh, I'm sure everything's fine. I don't really want to believe that that's true. And so I would kind of go in denial. And so I saw her at the foot of my bed, but I was kind of in denial, like, oh, okay, hopefully everything's okay. And then I went to sleep. And then then the next day, there was this foul smell, this horrible stench I was living in a house, renting a house in Lawrence, Kansas, and I was on the second. It was a 2-story house. I was on the second story, and my neighbor was on the first story. And there was this horrible smell. And by the way, a foul stench without any known cause can be a sign of a curse or psychic attack sent to you. So we looked all over. We couldn't find any cause for the smell. And then I called my landlord. My landlord came over. He looked all over. He couldn't find anything. They called the trash company. The trash company came out. They couldn't find anything. It smelled horrible. horrible. Oh my God, so bad. But still, I was still in denial, and I still didn't want to admit that there was anything going on psychic attack wise. And my gosh, so this was like about 15 or so years ago. And then, so here I am still in denial, and then my computer crashes, and the guy that I was dating at the time, his computer crashed, and then I had found a new person to work on my website, and her computer crashed, and then my car broke down. My boyfriend at the time, his car broke down. My new web person that I had just hired, her truck broke down, and then I had just hired an office assistant person, and she lived 3 blocks from me, and on her way driving to my house, her car broke down. And by the time she broke down, and then she just walked the rest of the way, and when she showed up, she told me that her car had broken down. I said, oh my God, I think I need to finally admit that there's something going on. Because again, in addition to there being a foul stench, there were multiple things breaking down. So automobiles, computers, that is a sign of psychic attack. Okay, and let me see, did I leave anything out? Also, clairvoyantly, I kept seeing red energy swirling around my house. So what I did, a friend came over, and we did a very simple ritual. We lit candles, we said prayers, and we released that curse. The thing was, with that particular situation, was that this person was a bully, and she was pretty toxic and not very good at communicating in a healthy way. And since she was a bully, she was mainly she was just trying to scare me, and she actually was not very powerful as a witch. She was not a very powerful witch. Okay, she didn't really have the ability to execute a powerful curse. So mainly what was happening was I got sucked into the fear of the situation, and that was making me even more stressed out. So what I realized was I need to not give her my power. I need to not be afraid. I just basically told her, I didn't talk to her in person, but energetically, I just told her that I'm not taking you seriously anymore. I'm not taking this curse seriously, and get lost. So I was like, I just took a very flippant, just get lost, whatever. This is just ridiculous. And that was an appropriate response to a curse that wasn't very powerful from someone who was just trying to be a bully. Now, if she had been a very powerful sorceress, that would not have been enough. I'm just telling you. But once I stood up in my own power, then what she was doing basically just dissolved, and there were no further adverse effects. After that, I also didn't have any further contact with her, because someone who's going to do something like that is not someone that I'm going to trust in my circle. So that's another important lesson, is that if anybody does anything like that to you, I'm all for forgiveness and love, but when people do certain things, it's really not a good idea to welcome them back into your life. You can wish them, you can send them good wishes from afar. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the last 2 stories? I know I've been talking for a while. Story time. It's almost time for you all to share stories. Okay, I'll just watch and see if there's any questions that come through, and I'm going to jump into my 3rd story. This story is The Haunted Farmhouse, and this was a very life-changing situation. It's not the reason why I'm doing the work that I do today, but it definitely, this major situation, along with a couple of others that I'm not sharing tonight, are the reasons why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. Okay, so this was about 20 years ago. Oh, Nicole says, does Mother Mary appear the same visually to everyone? Mother Mary does not appear visually the same to everyone, and a lot of different religious figures and spiritual figures will appear however makes you most comfortable and what you can relate to, because physical form really doesn't matter that much to them. So when they present themselves, it's more for your comfort. So this is why angels will appear differently to different people. To some people they will appear with wings, and some people they will appear as a light or as a person, and so on. And the same is true for our religious and spiritual figures. Jennifer is asking, with curses, how do you break them, and do you send them back to the sender, or do you just dissipate the dark energy / intention? Okay, well, that's a pretty big question. I'm happy to answer it. In this format, I'll just give you a basic answer, though, and if you need more, just let me know, okay? So every curse is different. Every psychic attack situation is different, so that's important to keep in mind. So, gosh, how do I want to answer this? Okay, so your question, do you send them back to the sender? Do you send it back to the sender, or do you just dissipate the dark energy? Sometimes I do one, and sometimes I do the other. And it just depends on the situation. So what I do is I check intuitively which is best. So I work a lot from intuition, because like 2 people might be experiencing a curse, and one solution is perfect for one person, and that same solution would be totally wrong for the other person. Okay, so happy to help you if you're having a situation. I can help you with that. And then curses, that's a whole, gosh, if it's just a simple curse like this one person sent, they can be broken pretty easily just by doing a simple ritual and prayers. But if it's a curse that's ancestral, that's been going, that's been passed down your lineage, from your parents, grandparents, going all the way back, then it gets more complicated, and then we have to look at doing ancestral healing. Or if it's karmic and it's come with you from past lifetimes, then we have to look at doing past life work. So it depends. Yeah, that's complicated. Nicole is asking, can an energy healing detect curses? Are you asking, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are you asking if an energy healer can detect curses? Is that what you're asking? And if that's what you're asking, the answer would be that honestly, a lot of energy healers cannot detect curses. Right, okay, so you're asking, can a professional energy healer detect curses? A lot of them are, just to be honest, a lot of them are not trained to really be able to discern that. And that's not in any way bashing energy healers. Energy healers are trained to balance energies, whether it's Reiki or chakra balancing or whatever. So a lot of times it's just outside of their field of expertise. But some who are also quite intuitive might be able to pick it up. And then there are some energy healers who are quite tuned in to these kinds of things that would be able to. So honestly, it just depends on the healer. I would not assume that they would be able to discern that unless it's their specialty, or if they're majorly intuitive, right? So Jennifer says, so amazing to hear your wisdom and to be able to learn from you. Thank you so much, Maya. Awesome. Wonderful to meet you, Jennifer. Okay, let's go. These are great questions, by the way. I love these questions. So the haunted farmhouse. So it was about 20 years ago that this happened. This is the story that starts my book. So I'm going to just kind of brush through it. And if you want to hear the whole story, then when my book comes out in, I don't know, 6 months, I don't know exactly when it's going to come out. Not that much longer, I promise. When it comes out, you'll have to get the book and read. The very first chapter includes this story about the haunted farmhouse. So I was in my mid-20s, and I was renting a house in town. I was living in Manhattan, Kansas, a little college town, and I was planning on moving away, and I wanted to save up my money so I could move away. So I decided to move in with this older lady who lived in an old farmhouse. And in doing that, then I would be able to save money, because it would be a cheap living situation. I could save money to move. So I went and looked at the place. I was going to be renting a bedroom upstairs. I'd have my own bedroom and bathroom. And then Ruby was her name. She lived downstairs. I always thought that was cool, because I was living on the Kansas prairie, and like Ruby, the Ruby Slippers. It was like the Wizard of Oz. Anyway, so Ruby lived downstairs, and I was upstairs in the house. Okay, so the first night there, I get into bed, and I lay my head onto the pillow, and as soon as I close my eyes, I hear what sounds like thousands of really loud whispers. Like, so loud. Whispers, though, not yelling, whispers. And it sounded like there were tons of them. And by that time, I had already had numerous spiritual experiences by my mid-20s. And so as soon as that happened, I said out loud to myself, I was the only one there, I said, oh, crap. This place is haunted. Crap. And I was like kicking myself, because I didn't bother to check before I moved in. I just moved in. And I just thought, oh, okay, well, hopefully everything will be fine. Hopefully everything will be fine. But it wasn't. Okay. Well, first of all, I did have a sense that there were a lot of ghosts in that house, like lots. And over that next week, I saw 2 different ghosts visually. So I didn't just feel them or sense them or have some kind of feeling that they were there. I mean, I saw them. So one ghost was this woman who was kind of thin and tall, and she was wearing like a prairie dress, and she was holding an infant baby in her arms, and she had long hair that was blonde and really kinky. It was really, really kinky hair. And she was just standing there. And then another time I saw a woman who had like raven black hair, long black hair, and similar type of outfit, like pioneer kind of dress. So I saw those 2 ghosts over the course of the next couple of days after I moved in. And then after about a week, okay, here's where the story gets kind of freaky. After about a week, I woke up in the middle of the night having an experience of sleep paralysis. And if you don't know what that is, sleep paralysis is where you wake up, but you can't move your body. And when I woke up and I was paralyzed, I was able to open my eyes, though. I opened my eyes, and there was a black energy, like a spirit. It was this black energy on top of me. And I didn't mention this part before. What woke me up? Okay, TMI, but this is important for the story. What woke me up was that I was asleep, okay, but what woke me up was that I started having an orgasm. So my body's doing this thing, and then I open my eyes, and there's this thing laying on top of me, and it was messing with me. Okay, if you catch my drift. And I couldn't move because I was paralyzed, and all I could do was just pray for protection. The next thing that I knew, it was morning, and sun was coming up. I was able to move. I wasn't paralyzed anymore, and I didn't see that spiritual being anywhere. And so I went to work. I was a school teacher, and by the end of the day, I started to feel like I was coming down with a urinary tract infection. And I thought, oh, no big deal, I'll just go buy some cranberry juice. So I went and bought some cranberry juice, but I got sicker. I got a horrible urinary tract infection. Now, in hindsight, I can see that was directly caused by this negative entity entering me there, and that's why I got sick. So I went to the doctor, got on medication, and then a few days later, so I was homesick, right? I couldn't work because I'm dealing with this infection, and so I spent a couple of days by myself in that room. Oh, Barb is sharing. Thank you. So I'm sitting there, wide awake. It's the middle of the day. And all of a sudden, I hear something speak my name. And it was like, it wasn't far away. It was like it was right there. Like it got up really close. And you guys know my name's Maya Zahira, but my middle name is Jane, and I used to go by Jane back then, and so I'm gonna speak what it sounded like. This is creepy. It said, Jane. That is what it sounded like. Okay. Freaky. And at that moment, when I heard it, that was when I said, okay, there's definitely something going on. I mean, I basically was trying to deny everything else, the UTI, the waking up with sleep paralysis, the seeing the black energy over me, and what all of that I experienced. I didn't want to admit it. I mean, I didn't want to, it was like, that's just too crazy. I can't believe that. I can't believe that happened. When I heard that voice, I was like, oh crap, there's definitely something happening. So I went to a couple of spiritual healers in the town where I was living, and none of them could advise me. None of them had any ideas how to help me with this sort of thing. Now that part of the story is part of why I'm so passionate about helping people now, because I had in the past different experiences that were horrible, and not only that, but no one, I wasn't able to easily find people who could help me or advise me, and I just thought that was even more horrible than the situation itself. Like, you gotta have people who can help you, who know what to do. So I couldn't find anyone who could help me or advise me on what to do. And after 6 months, I did move. I'd been preparing to move anyway. So I moved, but that whole time I was very, very sick. I never got over the UTI. Actually, I sort of got over the UTI, but I developed an infection in my whole body. And I stayed, so even though I moved after 6 months, I stayed sick for about 2 or 3 years after that. And it took me a very long time to recover physically from the entity invading me. I literally became physically ill as a result and stayed sick for a couple of years. Now, one other important part of the story is that after I moved out of that farmhouse, the new city that I moved to, I went to a shamanic healer. And I thought, surely he will be able to help me. He'll have some ideas on what happened or what I could do to heal, because I was still so sick. I literally thought that I was going to die. I thought that I was going to never recover. That's how sick I got. And when I went to this shaman, I told him what happened, and he shook his head and he rolled his eyes at me and he said, "Spirits can't do that to you." And I was like, okay. But because I believed that he knew more than I did, I basically was like, okay, maybe, I don't know. So I just so I didn't get any help from that session. Okay. That was, I don't know how many years ago, what was it? A long time ago. Very long time ago. So he basically poo-pooed my experience, and he did not help me at all. And again, that pattern of looking for help, and people who were like very popular healers, like he was, he had no clue, and he didn't help me at all. I'm not mentioning who this is, just it's important to note that pattern that I kept reaching out and couldn't find anybody. That's one of the reasons why like I said, why I'm so passionate about being someone who can help others who are going through these kinds of situations. So it took me a couple of years to recover physically and energetically from that situation. And I think that was the most extreme psychic attack situation that I experienced until a couple years ago, when I had a horrible, horrible situation that catapulted me 100% into the work that I'm doing now. But that haunted farmhouse situation, it was a precursor. It primed me for, it primed me more for the work that I'm doing now. So let's see. I know some comments came through. Barb says, "Your field is amazing and interesting. Thank you for sharing great stories this evening. I'm happy you got your country home." Yeah, me too. So also, while I'm getting ready to read the rest of the comments, if anybody wants to share some stories, when the comments come through, I can read like 1 or 2 sentences, and then the rest gets cut off. So if you want to share something, you can share a little synopsis. Or if you have any questions about what happened, or any solutions. Jennifer says, "Would these dark entities be considered discarnate spirits, like past people who haven't transitioned?" So some dark entities are discarnate humans, but some are not humans at all. I believe that dark entity that attacked me at the haunted farmhouse, my belief is that it was a discarnate spirit, a discarnate human who happened to be very, very evil. But that's not always the case. There are many spiritual beings that are not human at all, and that never were. So hopefully that answers your question. Nicole says, "I believe you, and I'm so sorry that this has happened to you." Well, thank you. One of the reasons why I'm sharing these stories is to help others who've had their own stories to know that they're not alone. So these are stories that are so far in my past. I don't have any emotional angst over them, but they definitely inform my work now, for sure. Phyllis, I love the little googly eyes that you posted. That's cool. Jennifer says, amateur shaman. Yeah, for sure. Phyllis says, why didn't he just say that he didn't know instead of invalidating your experience? Shame. Well, I agree with you. But what he was doing was expressing his own belief at the time, which he believed, like many people do, that spiritual beings can't do that to you. And there are a lot of people in the spiritual and New Age communities who will insist that spirits cannot do that to you. And the reason, now this is my belief here, the reason they believe that is because it's a lot nicer, it's safer, it's less scary to believe that they can't hurt you, right? It's a much nicer belief to have. So that's why they choose to believe that. Catherine says, I'm sorry such grief was caused towards you. My heart breaks for you, and I'm glad you are where you are. Happy now. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Jennifer, you've turned negativity into empowerment. Go, sister. That's me. Oh, wait, what just happened? Okay, there we go. Yeah. That's the story of my life, taking negativity and turning it into empowerment. That's it. And that's what I hope for anybody who's gone through any kind of adversity like this in any way, shape, or form. I want to help you turn it into empowerment for sure. Belinda says, I hate that I've experienced that. I hate that I've experienced that too. So many, quote, professionals telling me what I've experienced isn't possible. Oh my God. I'm laughing because I can relate. So I can totally relate. And she says, hello, I lived it. Yeah. Here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of colleagues that I respect and care for very much. However, I do get frustrated because I've too many times heard different spiritual healers, energy healers say things like, well, psychic protection is just so simple. All you have to do is just, set up a bubble of protection and then you're fine. And just focus on the positive and nothing negative will ever happen to you. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to try not to strangle this person right now. Oh my God. Because, so I try to have compassion when people say stuff like that. I think they're coming from that place because, first of all, they don't want to believe that negative stuff can happen because that would be too scary to acknowledge. And secondly, when they say things like that, it tells me that they've never had a situation like this. They've never had something like that happen to them. And so for a lot of people, it's hard to relate. It's hard for a lot of people to relate to something that they have not experienced themselves. So that's what that's about. And it's frustrating. So one of the reasons why I wanted to share some of these stories with you, and I have many more, is so that you know, so that you'll, especially if you're new to me, that you'll know that I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about psychic protection. These are stories that happened to me 20 years ago, and I've had other experiences. So I know what I'm talking about, and I have the deepest level of compassion for others who go through these kinds of situations similar to mine, and the deepest conviction to help people. So I've been there. Zahira says, I've felt evil energy go through me. Ooh, yeah, I know what you mean. Jennifer, that's called sticking your head in the sand to deny it and wondering why your bum is being stung. Oh my God, I love it. That's so true. There's a lot of people sticking their head in the sand. And like I said, I try to be compassionate There's people who just aren't ready because it's too scary. And I get it. This is scary shit. It is. But I would rather know the truth so that I know how to protect myself than put my head in the sand. And I know that's why all of you are here. Nicole says, let's do story time regularly with sharing with the community. I can't find anything like this anywhere. Yeah. You know what would be really cool? So some of my paid programs, we don't meet on Facebook Live. We actually meet on a format called Zoom, where we can all be on video and everybody can talk. So maybe one of these days we will do that. I usually just reserve that for my paid programs, but maybe we'll do that as a holiday gift, because that's coming up in a couple of months. Maybe we'll just have like a little Christmas/holiday present for you all. We can all jump on Zoom and do some storytelling. That'd be fun. Zahira says, I'm so glad to have you as a friend and teacher. Thank you. You know and understand. Soul sister. Yes. Erica, thank you so much for sharing your stories, Maya. You are a blessing to many. Oh, thank you, Erica. Okay, I think we're going to wind. Oh, it's 7:03. Jennifer says, I feel like I've finally found my tribe. It's a huge relief. Oh, welcome, Jennifer. And if you need anything, I am the fearless leader of the Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And there's also a lot of really wonderful people in the group as well. So anytime you have any questions, you can post them to the group, and there's a lot of people on there who will answer for you. Also, just as we wind things down, since I'm going to have to go here in a minute, once a month I have a class that's called the Psychic Protection Monthly Masterclass, and that's actually happening tonight after I'm done with you all. And it's a 12-month commitment, so it's not just a drop-in here and there. It's a program that you sign up for and you stick with it for several months, 12 months. And we go a lot deeper and a lot broader in our topics about psychic protection. And we actually, you actually get pre-published chapters from my book, Darkness Disguised as Light, and then we discuss those chapters during our online video class. So the class is not on Facebook Live like this. It's actually on a format called Zoom, which is kind of like Skype, but better. It's an online virtual classroom, and it's a lot more stable than Skype. So all the students get on there, and we can all see each other, and we have a really great class that lasts, how long does it last? An hour and a half, and it's once a month. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then I invite you to go to my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And when you get to the website, at the menu on top, there's a section called Classes and Events. And hover your mouse over that. And no. Oh my goodness. No, not over that. At my website, you're going to go to Need Psychic Protection. Need Psychic Protection. And under that, there's an option for the monthly masterclass. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. You do have to apply for it because they don't let just anybody join. So you have to fill out the application and then have an interview just to make sure that it's a good fit all around, a good fit for you and a good fit for me and for everybody who's in the group. So, gosh, I'll be brainstorming what our next topic is going to be. As always, we will have our classes, our Facebook Live classes, these classes, the first and third Monday at 6 p.m. Central. And so we'll have our next class in a couple of weeks. And I think that is it. Let's finish with some nature. Let's see. How about this way? That's a good view. Don't you love those clouds? Beautiful. That's my neighbor, that farmhouse over there. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Sending you all my love. Bye.